his trunk, I will never see him again. It's all about how you project. Now, one thing that's very important, and Sal and I had a conversation about this. There's two ways you can be in a company that I run. You can be happy or you can act happy. You're not allowed to come in any other way, truly. And I've sent people home that I couldn't get back on track. You can either be happy or act happy. And the reason is the prospect reads it in a second. They know whether you're fired up about what you're offering or whether you have doubts about it. Think of it from this standpoint. You all remember it this way. We've all been in sales for a long time. You haven't made a sale in a while, you're sweating it. We've all had those kinds of streaks. You're starting to question, oh my God, I can't seem to close, whatever. It's in your head. And you start to press for the sale. Everybody knows what press is. I got it, I got it. Right now, right now, right now. And you're not making a good argument. What does the prospect think about you? Weak. Right? But if you have a great argument and you stay on them and stay on them and stay on them, now they think that you're really sold on the idea. Now they can get excited in the idea. If you showed me an MRI and waited a month to call me again, I would figure you thought it was a piece of junk. But if you called me the next day and said, did you review the papers I left you? I really take this seriously. We're going to be helping lots of people. You're going to have no competition in the territory. And you keep laying out those things as your 3-minute kind of experience. I call that the elevator ride, is what we were taught to call it. Having a deep voice and an excited voice, they react completely different. People are exactly the same. And they read you very, very clearly. These are not dumb people. Confidence is 100%. And I frankly am the kind of closer, I never curse, I never yell, I never raise my voice, I never say something that could be taken in any way to be bad or negative. But boy, I close, man. If I got you on the fire, I will just keep repeating all the things you already told me. Remember, that's my selling system. I'm going to build all this stuff after lunch with you where you will have already given me all this information, and I'm just not going to let you change your mind. No matter what, I am not going to let you think that you can change your mind. Now, it's uncomfortable sometimes. I mean, frankly, it's uncomfortable. In closing, we use the words WFA. I'm sure you've seen it in some books. It stands for wait for answer. Okay? WFA. So the minute I go for the close, you will never hear me say another word until that prospect speaks.
First one who speaks loses.
That's right. Now, the reason, one sec. And the reason for that is because of exactly what you're saying. Now, most people don't understand what it means, the first one to speak loses, and that is a basis of sales. What it really means is, if you've gotten the prospect in the right position, a closing position, and you're going for the close at the correct point, and you go for the close, what's the first thing the prospect's thinking about once you give them the investment? So you tell them, okay, well, after we figured everything up, you said other than price, everything was clear, we're getting down to the investment. You present the investment as $2.1 million, this is the way we can finance it, all those things. You go for the close and you go, so we've got everything listed on the agreement. That's why I'm going to show you have to use a contract when you're giving the price. All I need is you're okay to get it started. What's the first thing the prospect's thinking? I'm wondering what you think. When you've given them the price, what's the first thing psychologically in the mind they're thinking about?
Can I get a better price?
One of the things, but a little bit further down the line psychologically. The biggest one is, how am I going to pay for it? That's really what comes to their mind first. Because you've gotten them excited to the point, now they're all fired up, you just dropped on them that it's going to be this investment. Truly the first thing they think of is, how would I pay for it?
They finally woke up.
That's right, they finally wake up at that point. Now, if you talk, you've completely changed the focus from the place you want them to be thinking of how they're going to pay for it to whatever you thought maybe adding in was going to help you, which it never will. Trust me. If you need to keep selling them at that point, you didn't do the job and you shouldn't have given them the price yet, in my opinion, in the way I'll lay it out for you. So if that's what they're thinking about, and then you talk while they're thinking about that, you've just shot yourself in the foot. Now I must tell you, 30 seconds feels like a minute feels like 5 minutes, and 5 minutes feels like an hour. I sat with the guy once 12 minutes. Not a word said. He couldn't believe it. He thought I was going to start talking. And I made him. And now as soon as he talks, the first thing that comes out of his mouth, my wife's a psychologist. People come and talk to her. It's never the problem that they talk about on the first visit. That's all their justifications of the stuff. But now, in the second appointment, they get down to the real guts. That happens in the sales situation. When you give the price, the next thing that comes out of their mouth after you've been quiet is definitely the objection. And you need to be able to deal with that objection at that point. And what we do very often is we think I'll give a little more input and it'll help me get the close. You've destroyed the entire setup at that point. Yes, Lou first. He was going to mention. Okay.
Don't you feel like if you've done all the key steps up to the point where you feel comfortable in asking for the order, if you've done those steps the right way, prospect almost closes themselves.
They
I've
should.
had prospects, and Saul will kick me for this, but they come to me and said, "We're ready to buy."
Right.
You've done everything up to this point, and we got to get this thing in because we got to start making money. When can you get us? When can you get us to?
You should be very proud of your presentation at that point because that's what made it happen. And you did it right, and you took them through and you closed them just the way you needed. But the average is not going to happen that way. This is not an order. It will be an order-taking business in the future because I believe when we catch that tipping point in the future and people start running, it'll be a much different type of a sale. But in general, what you did with that person is, like you said, you took the time that it took to set them up completely. It's a logical decision at the end. That's why I call my whole system just a yes or no, please.
But you hook them on the diagnostic benefits.
Absolutely.
Basically, my whole approach is how are you going to attract scans in a saturated market, which Florida is.
Yeah.
If you can't show them that, you might as well not waste your time.
Yeah, well, that's the payoff of the investment.
We've got it, but it all comes down to me as it's a financial sale. You show them how you're going to get the scans.
Yep.
You put those numbers in the spreadsheet, and bam, things come together. So my approach is it's a very analytical, consultative approach, and it takes a little more time than selling, a consumer on home improvement.
Sure.
There's you've got to do a lot of day-to-day groundwork, and it takes a lot more time than I think
No, I've done big and long-term sales. That's not the issue. The issue, all I'm saying in that case, is there's a prospect you worked correctly, moved through the process at a reasonable period of time. How long did it take to close that one, from start to finish?
I've had some that...
Just that one that you were just given as the example.
2 years.
Okay, so that deal took 2 years, and then they finally came to you and said, we got to buy it? What happened that you didn't get them to say that before that?
This thing, it got delayed by about a year because there was some legislation in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Reimbursement issues.
Okay.
But even a typical sale is going to take somewhere between, there are exceptions, but by the time that customer really says that I really like what you told me, let's try to put this thing together. It's going to probably take me 6 months to put it all together.
Why? Why? Tell me, I'm just wondering why. I know what some of the things are. I'm wondering. You tell me why.
The justifications are, you've got to know, if you're going to put a $2 million investment together, you've got to know how you're going to get a return on your investment. And to do that, you've got to understand, if you're in a business, you've got to understand where your scans are going to come from. If you don't understand where your scans are going to come from, then you're basically getting a customer into a if we build it, they'll come scenario, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And you know, if you